For a long time, I had a very simple explanation for why I kept starting over. I thought I was lazy. Whenever something important quietly disappeared from my life, writing, exercising, reading, waking up early, that was always the conclusion I came back to. I just wasn't disciplined enough. It felt like an answer, a disappointing one, but at least it explained everything, or so I thought. The strange part is that I almost never made the decision to quit. I can't remember sitting down one evening and saying, "That's it, I'm done." It never happened like that. Instead, one day became two, two became five. Then, somewhere along the way, I would notice my notebook sitting exactly where I had left it, or the running shoes by the door that hadn't moved for nearly 2 weeks. There wasn't one dramatic moment, just a long series of ordinary days where I quietly stopped showing up. And because there wasn't a clear ending, I never really understood where things had gone wrong. I used to prepare myself for difficult days. The mornings when getting out of bed felt impossible, the workouts I wanted to skip, the evenings when I was tired. Those were the days I thought I would decide everything. But after paying closer attention, I noticed something that surprised me. The habit almost never ended on the hardest day. It ended on an ordinary Tuesday. Nothing went wrong. Nobody upset me. There wasn't a crisis. I simply didn't feel like doing it. And because nothing felt urgent, I quietly told myself, I will do it tomorrow. Tomorrow became next week, and somehow that ordinary Tuesday had done more damage than any difficult day ever had. That was the day I had never prepared for. For years, I called this laziness, not because I had really examined it, because it was convenient. Laziness explained everything without asking me any difficult questions. If I was lazy, then the solution was simple: try harder, want it more, become more disciplined. But none of these explanations ever lasted because the truth was, I already wanted those things. I wanted to write, I wanted to read more, I wanted to become healthier. The desire was never missing. The problem was something much quieter. Every plan I made assumed that tomorrow's version of me would feel exactly like today's. And tomorrow almost never kept that promise. Some time ago, I came across an old Stoic idea that stayed with me. It wasn't about becoming fearless or endlessly motivated. It was much simpler than that. It suggested that life should be built around what you can control, not around how you happen to feel. That sentence kept following me around because almost every habit I had ever built depended on one thing I couldn't control: my mood. When I felt inspired, everything seemed easy. When I didn't, the entire plan collapsed. Not because the goal had changed, only because my feelings had. Looking back, that seems like a fragile place to build anything important. So instead of trying to raise my motivation, I started lowering the floor. I stopped asking, what's the perfect version? And started asking, what's the smallest version I would still do today? Sometimes that meant reading one page. Sometimes writing for 5 minutes. Sometimes doing just enough that tomorrow wouldn't feel like another beginning. At first, it felt almost too small to matter. But then I noticed something. Small things repeat, big promises often didn't. The goal wasn't to impress myself, it was simply to stop disappearing from my own life. And strangely, the smaller the commitment became, the longer it stayed. I wasn't starting over because I lacked discipline. I was starting over because every time I restarted, I expected the best version of myself to return. Instead, maybe I should have been planning for the ordinary version, the one that gets tired, gets distracted, gets bored, because that's the version that will quietly shape most of my life.